Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you find yourself. Again, to welcome to Liberia Shall Rise. I'm Emmanuel G. Sapulus, you're sitting in the humblest seat and privilege to serve as our host today on behalf of Mr. Augustine Sherry, who is on his way, hopefully back home, and we'll wish him safe travel back to the United States from wherever he's coming from. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want us to look at certain things that have happened in our country over the past 20 years. I'm trying to figure out what we have done. So today's topic, it seems like it's going to be a monologue since Augustine Sharif and Dr. Positive or Steve are away. So I'm left alone here today to serve you. But it's a privilege and it's an honor to serve you this day. But I've been thinking and wondering in the last few days, in fact, for months and years now, and about our development process that we have in Liberia. And I've been thinking, is it really based on national policy, or is it based on policy, tangible policy that we can look at, or is it just politically motivated? Right? I mean, since 2006, after the war, after we elected Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in 2005, she became president in 2006 to 2017 when she left office, and then Mr. Weah took over from 2017 coming to 2023, 2024. That's about 18 years. And I was looking and reading through IMF or World Bank, African Development Bank, the Arab lenders and other sources, and saw that there was a lot of money sent to Liberia. I mean, in the billions, right? In the space from 2006 to 2023, according to those sources, 24 point, I think 5 billion with a B were put in Liberia. These are money that entered the country for developmental purposes. I mean, they were targeting, according to them, healthcare, education, infrastructure, and other stuff. But after 24 years, and you're talking $24 billion, some of us still thinking, where did that money go? And none of our one of our education sector is developed. I mean, have we thought about it and why? Are Liberians asking? And that's why I asked this question. Is Liberia developmental, or Liberia development, is it based on politics or national policy? Because I think it is the latter. I mean, I think it is based on or politically motivated. That's my opinion. I'm not an expert, but when I did the research and check from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time when she took over, in fact, and we all know, I think 2000, between 2007 2010, Liberia had about 4 point something billion in debt, and that debt were forgiven to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and we started to build up more debts. Right? In her first year, she got huge, and I mean huge amount of money per IMF, United, World Bank, and all these different entities that were giving, donating or either donating money, which were grants, or giving loans. But then our question becomes, what happened to all that money? What happened to the billions and billions of dollars that were spent in Liberia in the space of from 2016, I mean 2006 to 2023? Right? We know there are some things that happened. We know there was an Ebola. We know it happened. We know COVID took place. But the Ebola alone, which I thought it was, I thought it was a few $100 million, but according to the United Nations, United Nations, WHO, and IMF, Liberia was given $1 billion for Ebola. $1 billion for Ebola. And yet, our healthcare sector still does not show that. So what are we doing in our country? What are we using to develop our country? It's just as politics as usual. Because to me, that's what it seems like. And I'm going to kind of try to explain to make sense on why I think most of the decision, most of the policies that we have in Liberia is mostly politically motivated, which I think is temporary, right? Political motivation as a developmental plan is temporary because these political parties will come and they will leave. However, our country will still remain where it is. Now, if we have a national policy or national agenda or national policy that each government that comes in place will foster or implement the previous policy that were put in place, then I think we'll have tangible. But let's go back from 2006 to 2017, right? So for Grant Early Johnson Sirleaf, for 2 terms per IMF or World Bank, the African Development Bank, she received $3.5 billion grant. This is grant. This is something the government did not pay back. And this grant, according to them at the time, it was geared toward reconstruction, right? They were focusing on reconstruction because, I mean, which is understandable. We just came from war and there are a lot of things going on. So, yes. So that makes sense that we want to start reconstruction. Now, in that time period, and from my observation, I could be wrong and stand to be corrected, and I want to be corrected. The tangibles that I can see that today we can refer to and say, hey, these grants or the loans or stuff that they brought in, this is what it did, and we can see. One of them that I can look at that can still functioning properly, even though it was not expanded to the extent that the money was projected for. That is the highway from Pinsville or outside Pinsville all the way to Ganta. Okay, that highway should have been, I think, 4 lane, 2 lanes on each side, and we know it's just 2 lane, one way to go, one way to come. That I can say that's a tangible that we still see today, right? Credit to her. You can still drive from Monrovia to Ganta within a reasonable time, right? But that's one of the tangible that we can see that somebody can say, yes, there was something that she did with some of the money, and that project we know. I mean, it's not part of the grant. I'm just giving some of the tangible that she left behind. And I think one of the things we can see is the rehabilitation of the White Plain Hydro Center, which we know is today is still not functioning as it's supposed to, because we are still relying on energy from outside the country, that is from the Ivory Coast, right? And then we are looking at what else, the Kawe Bridge. The Kawe Bridge is there, it's still working, it's functioning well. The Somalia Drive, that was completed under George Weah government. And did the renovation of the airport. Those are the tangible you can see, and these are not part of the some of these projects I'm naming are not part of the grants, but at least those are some of the tangible we can think about. But according to the IMF and UNICEF and all the other agencies, they were giving money to develop healthcare, education, agriculture, road network. Like I said, we can see something that we can. But agriculture, what have we done with agriculture over these years? In my opinion, I don't see anything, because we're still importing almost all of the rice we eat. Most of the food we eat, we're still importing them. Even though we have a very young population, which is Liberia. I think the average age in Liberia is about 19, right? The average should be about 19, which is very young, very youthful. Education. How have we developed our education sector? I know it have been a joke around town in the last few weeks or few days about the military recruitment, where people are criticizing the high school graduate that they cannot read a simple elementary sentence. So that means our education in the last 20 years was not really restructured. It has not been built to accomplish, in my opinion, anything. Right? So how was the money spent? We know one of the things she introduced for her education program was the junior colleges in the various counties, which, in my opinion, was a very good idea. It was a very good idea to establish junior colleges in the various counties. Good. But I think the implementation was wrong. It was missed, in my opinion, my humble opinion, because I'm not an expert, but with common sense will tell me that if I am coming from war and our most of our population at this time, especially our school age children at the time, or young men who supposed to have had high school education, most of them had just been through war. Most of them either participated or most of them did not have the opportunity to go to school because they were either dodging bullets and all these different things, right? So you would think we will target our education to those populations so that they can be useful to a post-war Liberia, right? And those junior colleges did not serve, in my opinion, did not serve the purpose that it should have served. For example, let's look at the Bon County Technical School. Bon County, prior to the war, it was Bon, Nima, and Lofa County that was considered the breadbasket of Liberia. So I would have thought if you open a college or an education higher institution or whatever you want to call it in that part of the country, I would think you'll focus more on agriculture. Why? Because let us not forget, for us who were in Liberia, Bon County was almost like the center of where most of Charles Taylor's fighters were, right? Most of them came in there because the NPRAG government, whatever, Chancellor government that was there have brought in people because just as populated as Monrovia is today, those days, Banga became populated because that was the headquarters of the Chancellor's government at the time for a few years. And it attracted a lot of his fighters and a lot of people who felt that that was the place to be, right? People from Bomi County, all the territory that he controlled, people were going there for survival or to live or to have access to urban area. So those people, most of them did not go back home to where they came from. So some of them made that place a home. That means, in my own assessment, the population that were there, the young population that were there, most of them had either outgrown high school or education age, in my opinion, and they would need something that they can work with their hands. They are young, they are energetic. So I would think agriculture, carpentry, masonry, mechanic, things that are easily as useful to that community. Because we're talking about reconstruction at this time, right? So if we're talking about reconstruction, I would think we should emphasize more vocational education. But we had all this money, right? In the space of 12 years, she had access to about $3.5 billion grant. This is not the FDI. This is not a foreign domestic. Or it's not the foreign investment, foreign direct investment. That is not. In her time, we got 16 billion. During Madam Ellen Jessie's time, we got 16 billion who had access according to reports. And this report come from, you can find them on the IMF website. You can find them on World Bank, the African Development Bank, and so forth, right? There are many sources that I'm quoting from. $16 billion was infused, according to these sources, into the Liberian economy by foreign direct investment. 16 billion. Whether it is ArcelorMittal and all the other Chevron and these other oil company or other companies that went into Liberia, right? 16 billion plus the $3.5 billion grant that she got. So we're talking roughly $19 billion went into Liberia. But honestly, we can't see, I personally having traveled to most part of Liberia, the most populated areas in Liberia, that is Monrovia, Banga, Kakata, and Ganta. Those are, from my observation, those are the most popular cities that you can go to now in Liberia, right? And even during her time, those are the cities that you could go to at the time. And I don't see a lot of development for $16 billion. If some of these resources were being channeled to develop our country. Education, like I'm talking about education. Today, after let's take her time, 12 years plus, that's 18 years, because this other government will give us we just got in power, right? But the fund I'm talking about are something that these entities say have was realized in Liberia. Ellen Johnson's lifetime was 16, I mean 19 point something billion dollar, right? Over 19 billion dollar. Let me put it that way. And some of these money was supposed to develop agriculture, um, education, healthcare, uh, power or energy, water, safe drinking water, and so forth. But I know for a fact that the education sector is not where it's supposed. It is not even where it was prior to the war. Now, in fact, it's not even where it was during the war. Because I went to the school during the war. The education standard now is from my own assessment is way below wartime education that we went to. The standard is so low, and it is reflective not just with these few days or assessment that was done by the military for recruitment. No, it is reflected in the House of Representatives, even in the Senate. And that is a disappointing part. Some of us are not shocked by it because I follow the House most of the time when they are in session. And some of us listen to the utterances and know that they are just there for the money. They are not there because they are educated and they are qualified in any way. Some of them who serve on committees, they don't even have a background in those committees. And in their offices, they don't have people who are educated or have background on these committees. For example, the finance and whatever you want to call it. There are few guys who may be the chairman that will have some financial background, but some of the other guys will just be there for flow show, you know. And then in the those that work in their offices don't have anything that has to do with finance. Ways and means, the same thing. Education, the same thing. Healthcare, the same thing. You got people who don't have healthcare background becoming chairman of healthcare committee in the house. I mean, tell me, how do you expect that person to make law that will have impact on the healthcare system or will develop the healthcare system? It is impossible. And that's the problem we have in our country. So now let us come to our topic I'm talking about today. And the question I'm asking is the Liberia development, is it based on national agenda or national policies? Or is it just politically motivated? And I think it's the latter. The reason I say that is because if you had a national agenda, right, and you say, look, this government or this every decision we're making after the war, just for the war, the first thing we do is rehabilitation, reconstruction, and also forth. The first thing we should have done is first establish institution that will put those people who have been out of school for a long time, rehabilitate them to education system by doing things with their hands. That's what I would do. Train them on mechanic, train them with carpentry and stuff like that, so that they are marketable right away, instantly. 6 months you train a guy in carpentry, 6 months you train a guy in a mechanic, he can go to a mechanic shop and start repairing vehicles. He can go in the community and start building tables for market women, building chairs for high school, for schools and other stuff, fixing people doors, fixing people ceiling, fixing people locks. That is right there, carpentry. In 6 months, he is useful to society. He doesn't have to go to the House of Representatives to be begging for money. No, because you have given him a tool that he can survive on for the rest of his life. Now, if he intends to go back to school and go through the Western traditional education, yes, then of course they can do that. But in the meantime, he or she has something that they can survive on. That's what national policy or national political, or agenda would do. Unfortunately, it is only politically motivated. Now, what would a political motivated policy do? So, right after school, right after the war, hey, let me tell people that I have built junior high or junior colleges in all counties. That is a political motivation, in my opinion, because you only want to tell people when you have left office, hey, look, or this president built junior university, junior colleges everywhere in the country. But then the question is, what is the impact of that junior college in those various counties? So political motivation will give you that. It will put institutions in place just for the show, to show that you have done something, even though you have already not done anything. And people will clap for you. People will say, yes, we just built junior university in all the counties or in most of our counties. But in reality, you really did not do anything. You just created another room for confusion. What an agenda-based, a country agenda or policy we have done is first fix the system that you have in place. We have MCSS, we have all the government schools. Fix those ones first. Train qualified teachers to be in those institutions first. Create the vocational schools. Let those people learn those things that they can learn so that they can start hands-on and do stuff for themselves, for self-survival. Because you just disarm these people who, for the past, some of them, 10, 15, 14 years, all they have lived on is looting. Right? Because those are some of the how we can call that, the side effect that we will in healthcare won't give medication to somebody who say the side effect. So those are the side effect of war. The side effect of war is looting. It's people getting are people getting things that they don't earn. And if you do that for years and years, that's what become you're accustomed to. If the guy is 12 years old, 13 years old from 1990 and he was looting until he turns, and you get add 13 years to a 13-year-old boy. That's 26 years old. 26 years old, he have all of his youth, his teenage life, he has spent it looting. And then he's 26 years old. He have not gone to school. He have not learned any trade besides pulling a trickle and looting. And then you get him out. And you don't give him anything that he can do with his hand. After he have been using his hand for the last 13 years, 14 years, 10 years, whatever number he did. And you're going to tell him to go back to traditional academic school, it's difficult. So what we could have done is provide the skills that he or she will use in his or her community, so that when somebody's door is broken, he or she can fix it. Then when they are settled down, where they can provide for themselves, they can say, okay, you know what, let me go to school. We didn't do that. So in my opinion, that is based on political motivation, right? Political motivation to show that you have done something, but you have not really accomplished anything. So that education, that junior colleges, junior university, here we are, LU, right across the street from the executive mansion. The oldest university from Liberia College to University of Liberia. Here we are, 2026. Most of the junior high schools in the United States, the campuses are bigger than the University of Liberia, main campus on Capitol Hill. That is a disgrace. And not just the size, but the infrastructures are horrible looking. Bad shape. No good plumbing. No even good electricity. Right? So you don't develop those things, and then you talk about building other universities in other part of the country. The heart of the city, you cannot even find correct, if I can put it in Liberian way, you cannot find correct good teacher to teach in the University of Liberia and the other local colleges around it. But you go and build one in Bon County, in Lofa County, in other counties where you better find good teachers to teach in the junior high school. And let me not forget to tell us that in 2024, and this is after Ellen Jones' early time, this is 2024, I went to some of the schools. Most of the people that are in the schools are volunteer. The employed teachers are less than the students, the teachers that are volunteering. Just imagine, just think about it. So how do we spend the money that's supposed to be allocated to restructure or rebrand or redo whatever for education? How was that spent? But political motivated policy, we just put something out there for people to talk about, but nothing accomplished. Okay, nothing accomplished. So I think the junior colleges, they're putting up the junior universities or whatever, and now some of them, even though we're talking about LU not putting a good qualified, and it's not a fault of the students. To be frank with you, it's the prevailing condition that have come. What have what the society have introduced to these people that is making them to behave the way they behave. We used to have good debates when I was in LU. We debated on the issues. It didn't matter where we were debating, whether it's on the political power or even the religious one. But we debated on the issues, right? And those debates were civil. During the war, we did not use all these other slogans that people are using. And then after the war, to my surprise, at the early campus, we're hearing people when we were on campus in the 90s when the war was fighting, or in the early 2000s when the war was fighting, we're not dressing these militant uniform. But then after the war, we now see students put on the militant uniform when some of them had not even known what it was to be in a war. And that's the confusion. But it's because of what those in leadership are showing them or telling them. And they think that's the easiest way. But Liberia, what are we doing to ourselves? How can we restructure ourselves? What have we done in the last 20 years? I'm going to look at the last 18 years of that 20 years. What did we accomplish? Because according to IMF, these are the money that have been poured into Liberia. But yeah, we can't see the tangible. And that is my question to us. Have we used the resources that we are given to actually make a national agenda or policy that we can govern and develop the country? Or all we're doing is using political motivation to put things out there? Education is still not right. You got lawmakers who cannot. There are lawmakers in the House that have been there for almost 20 years. They have not put a one bill. That's it. I was from the playing field. And I'm just speaking as a Yana boy because I used to be a Yana boy. And I went into the House. If I was educated from the Yana, from being a Yana boy, which I was, by the way, okay, I was educated as a Yana boy, going from place to place, selling my little stuff and going to school, SDA campus. Not many of my classmates knew, few of them knew. But I was street seller or street vendor, and at the same time going to SDA on Ken Johnson Road. And I graduated from there, and I earned my education. So if I was to go in the House representing the Yana boys, I would be thinking of ways to put policies in place that those Yana boys would not be stuck between vehicles. Like we used to run behind vehicles on Johnson Street Hill right there. When Ecomont checkpoint was right after the now old bridge, because they got another new bridge going towards Waterside. But the bridge towards, I think it's the Tucker Bridge, to going towards the Johnson Street. When we used to run behind vehicle over there. I will put policies, I will write policies to help those people to get off the street because most of them don't want to be there. That's what I would do as a guy coming from the field or the younger boy who got educated and went in the House. However, though, we have many of these guys who are going in the House without a career path. They have not done anything. So when they get there, a guy from the street or from some zinc shack, you put him in a house who had not even access to $100, and then you started giving all these incentives, and they go drunk. And that is why we need another education system in Liberia. That is training and teaching leaders, quote unquote leaders, because I don't think some of them are leaders, but quote unquote leaders, how to manage the finances. We need financial education. We need leadership training in the Liberian government and the Liberian public as a whole. Those are things we need. Because we got people who are in authority but lack leadership skills, in my opinion. And it has been proven. They lack leadership skills. But again, let's come back to what we're talking about. Is Liberian policy driven by political motivation or national agenda? I think it's mostly politically motivated. Politically motivated because, like some of the examples I show you, and it's happening today. Healthcare. Today, I know when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was there, she was trying to, I think, build the Redemption Hospital. Today, we don't know where that is. And those are some of the problems we have in Liberia. We tend to build infrastructure and focus more on the infrastructure than those that will occupy the infrastructure. We tend to focus on the infrastructure than the system that will run the infrastructure. And there where some of our problems are. And that what makes most of our policy, most of the things we do, politically motivated. Because you're not doing it to benefit the country. You're only doing it to benefit your name. Because you're going to show, oh, this is what I did. This is what I did. I put this up, I put that up, I put that up. But when you in reality, you did really nothing. Healthcare, JFK, that building might be older than I am. JFK might be older than I am. That building is more than 50 years old. The population of Monrovia have grown, if not maybe 5 or 6 times when they built JFK. And we still expect JFK to serve that population. Even though we don't have the capacity. And I'll need to go back and check the Liberian doctors that we have in the country. Trained Liberian doctors. Because the last time when I checked, I think there were around 200. The Liberian doctor, I'm not talking about foreign doctors that are in Liberia. I'm talking about Liberian doctors. Okay? The one that is like, that are Liberians. 200 at the time when I checked. So far, I think, from what I know, we got only one neurosurgeon in the country. So you want to tell me how many persons he's going to serve? You know, I don't know if we still have bone doctor that we used to have. I know that the Konoga used to be a bone doctor. I don't know how many we have in Liberia right now. So you are to restructure your healthcare system, but we did not really train Liberians to be part of it. We rely more on the foreign donors to bring in some, in my opinion, some of the doctors I think were substandard doctors. And we've got to be real with ourselves. And that's one of the problems Liberians have. We always feel that other countries going to send their best to our country. That is not true. No country is going to take their best and send it to your country to help your people. That is not true. It's not. And I'm not saying some of the doctors that came are not good doctors. No, that's not what I'm saying. There are some people who genuinely want to help. There are some people, out of the goodness of their heart, they want to go to countries that need it. But I can tell us that most of the people that leave their countries to come in a country like ours to make money, it's not because they are the best in their countries. No. No, they're not. We try to rely mostly on and respect foreigners than ours instead of training our own, bring them up. Why is it very good to bring up yours? Because one, he or she knows the environment. He or she easily communicate with the people. He or she knows the prevalence of disease that are within, because he or she have already experienced them at one point in their life. So they will know how to tackle it. They will do the right case study to fight those diseases as compared to a guy coming from India, a guy coming from some other countries. All he or she mind is on is what is in their country. And they try to kind of correlate what is the common and then to find the difference. That's a time. But if you treat your own Liberian who knows the system, who knows what is going on, it is easier for them to replicate anything. So we need to start building a system, not just based on political motivation. Oh, I did this, I did that. Oh, that project, I started it. Oh, I only wrote the cost. I signed the contract. And really? I mean, and I see former presidents do this all the time. I did that project. She did. I supposed to do the one, and they're doing this one. What is that? All about politics. It's not about the people. Why are we selling ourselves so short, Liberians? Ellen Johnson said time. Grant plus Direct investment, not loan, direct investment and grant, 19 billion dollars. That's what her government got. That's it. According to IMF and other sources, that what went in the country to her. If you add her loan that she got, it's about 20 billion total. 21 billion actually. 21 billion dollars went to Liberia. The loan she took during her time. You know, but we can't really see the tangible. What are we doing? Why are we making our country and our people to suffer when we have had opportunity to make these people better? Healthcare is barely accessible. Look, just recently there was a report in Bapulu where women are working 4 5 hours. Pregnant women working 4 5 hours, 6 to 8 hours to sometimes to go to the nearest clinic to give birth. Some of them dying along the way, some of them giving birth along the way. But in that very district that thing is happening, there have been, if not multiple lawmakers in that very district. Multiple lawmakers who, if you calculate their salary from 2006 to 2023, it will be over 1 million. Their salary, their incentives, and all the other different things they're getting. It will be over $1 million that could have provided 3 or 4 little house clinics. How much they pay nurses? The last time I checked was around $150 to $200. So if you put 2 or 3 nurses in that area, right? That's about 3,600 a year. If you pay them 200, that's 2,400 a year times 3, right? But 60, what, 72? 7,200 a year. And to keep medication in there, maybe you can spend about 100, 150,000, 200,000, I don't know, to keep medication there. At least to keep them up until they can find somewhere to go. But one person in that area, which is maybe in that particular district, that lawmaker money alone, which should be around maybe $100,000 a year, could benefit a lot of people. What are we doing to our people? What are we doing? We get the money. No wonder why they are fighting and killing one another just to get in those places, in those positions. Because it's not about the people, it's about themselves, their pocket, how they can live luxurious life. We got them posting on Facebook and social media and other places how they're traveling to other countries to celebrate their whatever, spending thousands of dollars and celebrating and showing it to these very people that they're representing. And sadly, these people don't get angry. They praise them, they clap for them, they celebrate them and say, oh yeah, he's enjoying. But he's taking your resources and enjoying, and you suffering, you dying, your brothers are dying, your relatives are dying for lack of incentives that you need, necessity that you need. And they are taking the money. Good. He or she did not invent anything. They didn't make any business. They went to work in the house. And these are people who work less than 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. And they're making thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. 103 people making or taking 50 some more $1 million from the Liberian budget. Do you know how much that could do for those rural districts and those rural counties when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to agriculture that we should be feeding ourselves? Today we're wondering why cancer is not becoming a thing in Liberia. Why wouldn't it be? When we left from eating our natural food to now eating processed food, you don't know the source of the food that you're eating. And you wonder why? If you didn't know, those are some of the reasons. You wonder why a lot of young people getting blind in Liberia? You wonder why? because most of them don't have access to basic necessity. So they have to go out in the sun and look for food and do other things. So the dust from the road, the sun, the UV ray is destroying their eyesight. You go to Liberia, you see that. You go in the street, you see very young people. I remember when I used to sell in the 90s, selling up and down in Monrovia. There used to be, I think, 2 or 3 blind men in the entire Monrovia area that I knew that used to be in the street begging. Because I patrol from Red Line all the way, all throughout in town, Sinko, Congo Town, Joba, whatever you want to talk about, all the way through every corner of Monrovia itself, Benson Street, Kerry Street, Center Street, Robert Street, every corner of those streets, and then come to Bushra Island, the entire Bushra Island, I don't know what part, I don't know, through Bannersville, go all the way to Chickup Town, I mean, you just name it. Those areas will patrol them during the 90s. All of those years, I remember 3 blind people that I knew of. One was an older lady. One guy, one of them used to sit by the Johnson Street Bridge, and another guy used to be around the Broad Street. Sometimes you see in different places. 3, a few handicapped. Today, go to Monrovia. Just from right in front of JFK, you see about 5 or 6 blind young people. Why? Have we asked ourselves these questions? Because we are taking the resources that these people, that should be benefiting these people, to put in 1 or 2 people's pocket, and they bounce around with it. Look, like, let me be frank with us. And I'm hearing another thing about, IMF just gave us 200 some more $1 million. Where is it going to go? It's going to go back in their pocket. It's going to go in their pockets. The few in their pockets, and they're gone. And then down the road again, we're going to be asking for more. You think the IMF is there to free you? You think the World Bank is there to free you? No. Their job is to control your government. That's why they're giving them the money. Liberians, the job of the IMF and the World Bank is to control your government and tell them what to say, what to do, how to do it. That is why they gave them money. They're not giving them money so that your life can be better. If you don't know that, you need to start knowing that now. Because if you could develop your country, you will see development, because then they will hold these people accountable. You think when they come and say, the IMF report says Liberia get this, Liberia pass this threshold, you think it's for your interest? No, it's because of a control mechanism. So when Gafwa come and pronounce that this $1 million was given to you, or when Tua used to come and tell you the $1 million was given to you, it's not to the benefit of you. It's to the benefit of them. Because you're selling your future, you're enslaving your future. It is easy for politically to sit and say, we just received $260 million. We received this one from the IMF. The IMF said we passed this scorecard. Have you asked yourself these scorecards that they're giving for your political leaders to celebrate their achievement? Has it trickled down to Bonkante? Has it trickled down to Grandida? I mean, we're talking in the space of 12 years, $21 billion went to Liberia. And what can we show for? Absolutely nothing. But one thing I can show you, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and most of her people that were in her inner circle are millionaires. If some of them may be even billionaires, that I can show you. Billionaires. Some of them lavish this money and they're backing government again. Getting more. It's all on political motivation, because they will come and tell you Zikwe, or whatever they tell you guys nowadays. I mean, at least in this other government, that stuff reduced a little bit. And you sit there and shout, praising them. Liberia, where are we heading? We cannot continue to sell our future and expect the country to develop. Agriculture. What can we show? The last time I checked, we're still importing oil from Guinea, pepper from Guinea, rice from India, China that is full of a bunch of water, Indonesia and other countries. We're still importing rice. You're importing chicken feet. You're importing chicken liver, chicken gizzard. I won't be surprised you're importing chicken hair I know a few years ago, they were importing dry cow skin from Guinea. How is that beneficial to you? Why do we want to continue to be dependent? We are becoming so dependent that in my hometown, that back in the days, when you go there, you see food, fresh food. You go in my hometown, those in the 90s and before the 90s, before the war, during and before. You see food. You see you enter. You find chicken. You find whatever, fish, fresh crawfish. Today you go there, they're asking you to buy potato grain. Are you kidding me? That is what dependencies does to you, and that's what the IMF does to our country. It trickle downs. That's what trickle downs. Because once your government is now depending on other countries to support them, to do everything for them, then the citizens start to depend on the government or the official government to support them. And that's what's happening. But people, look, let me tell us one thing. And sometimes people overload words. There was word when we were growing up. I don't hear it a lot nowadays, but it is still happening the same way it was interpreted. Back in the days when we were growing up in the 80s, we hear people say Liberia is an elephant meat. That didn't mean you're carving Liberian, you're cutting the map that behind me here, you're cutting it piece. No. It's because people felt that being in government is to come, steal resources, and leave the country. So they will tell you it's elephant meat, go and get your own. We don't hear it anymore, but that's exactly what's still happening. The words that we use tend to be the one that impact our lives. Liberia is going nowhere if we cannot redirect our energy to the right place. We need to stop this political motivation for everything. Stop electing leaders that you think you love them. They're not going to develop your country. Just because you're a part of a political party does not mean you have to agree with everything. You don't have to. In fact, that's not a help. We cannot allow our country to continue to go down this path where we just borrow, and mismanage. The last 3 administrations did it, it yielded nothing. They wasted resources, and today we are still feeling the pinch. And they want to come back again. We need to start holding this one accountable. We need to start working together. What you are doing right, continue going. What you need to do right, ask your own Liberian citizen. They can help you better. Going to these other people and asking them, oh, how do we do our country? It don't help you much. It can make you dependent. Let us think about how we can start working to propose system in place. Having those documents or writing on the paper, that's not a system. Look at what's happening at our border today. We still got, according to what we're hearing, foreign forces at our border. You would think after a war, what we should have done, and that's another political motivation behavior, where Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, instead of building a military that will be able to defend itself, they use the big name. Oh, the American government, the American military coming to train our army. Just prestige. That's all they want. That's just political motivation. The training was not based on defensive capacity or building a structure that would defend the citizen. That's not what we're doing. We're just trying to show off that we can train with the American military. Then we're good. But in reality, it did nothing. And that is not just that too. If you train the military, even let's say, okay, we've gotten the right training. Training the military and sustaining them is another thing. And there where most of the time, in my opinion, that will fail at Liberia. And that's why I keep saying everything we're doing nowadays in Liberia is politically motivated. Because Political motivation is temporary. It's what I do now. People see and they celebrate me and they back me up. And when I leave, that's about it. But if there's a national agenda, you will have a program in place to maintain it. For example, the military. If you know you have lawmakers making at the time during early time 15,000, $100,000 a month, the man who is defending the country, how much will you pay him? What incentive are you giving him? He is the military. Capacity building is not just to train the man and put him in the street. That's not it. Capacity building is sustaining the person. You can't train a military guy, no matter how strong, how trained he is, and you're giving him $150. When the guy who sit in capital building that makes about $20, spend 20 hours a week in the house is making $15,000, that's not sustaining anything. Political motivation is what we're talking about today. Hey, we're fighting drugs. You're not fighting drugs. You're encouraging drugs to come in the country. There is no way you expect the LDEA guy, agent, to be receiving $100, $250, $150. He better get food for his home. He's not getting. The people at the top, they get scratch card, they get transportation, they get everything. But the guy who is sitting to tackle the drugs, he getting $150 to $200 a month. No scratch card, no rent payment, no food, no other incentive. That's all you're getting. And you expect him to fight drugs? You're not serious. But then you take pictures and put it on social media and stand up and blast and say, yeah, we're fighting drugs. We just captured. Those are political motivated or publicity. That's all it's doing. You can't tell me you are ready to support crime when you're paying the policeman, the traffic police, and you say you're fighting corruption. You put traffic police in the street and getting $150. Those are the things we have to start fighting for first. If we really don't want to do things based on politics only. If we're really serious for national development and not political development, we need to start focusing on a system. We should have a minimum wage for our military, for our paramilitary for that matter. We should have a system in place where the security apparatus are communicating with one another and working on that. That's a system you're building. The guy who sits in the air condition will not fight crime. He won't. The guy in the street is the one that fights crime. That means he should be incentivized for that role. Not giving $150 and they say go find your own uniform. Some of them, the uniform they're wearing, they have been issued that for more than 10, 15 years. But guess what? The police are already getting new car every 2 years or every 3 years. And the guy who is on the street, who is doing the job, he doesn't even have a motorbike. You're not even giving him a motorbike. You should, if you're really serious to fight crime, make the people who are fighting the crime life bearable. Let them have a livable wage. That is a system. But I saw a few days ago to put some motorbike and pick up in the street. Government buy these cars for police. Few police vehicle. I think it's called some patrols on it. Those are political motivated. That is not a national policy. That's not a national agenda because it's not sustainable. You buy 4 or 5 vehicles and you think you're going to fight drugs with that? When your road network is not even good? You know? Look, Liberia, we got to get serious. We need to get away from political motivated policies and focus on national development policies. Sustainable ones too. Let us start targeting things. To be frank with us, if we are really taking the time to do studies and say, look, let's work with our diaspora. And let me give you one solution that will help. It's a good thing that I hear this current president have instituted the diaspora office, whatever that is. It's a good idea. Again, we always have good ideas. We'll put those things out there, but the implementation is always where we fail. That's what I have observed. It is a fact. This is not just what I think. Okay, this is actually a fact. Case in point, the yellow machine. Since the king is still sitting there, It was just a political thing that we have for 2 years. Yellow machine coming, yellow machine coming. You had 2 years to prepare for yellow machine. Didn't you know that yellow machine comes, you need driver, you need mechanic, you need all those things, you need operators? Yes. Why didn't you train people for that before the yellow machine could come? You could do the theory in the classroom. In fact, 100% of the education in Liberia that we see have always been theory. I didn't see any of the chemical that I studied in Liberia until I graduated from college. From high school. And even when I entered LU, most of the people were studying in chemistry, organic chemistry. We didn't see them. The highest lab that I had when I was in LU, under the Firestone building, there was usually about 100 to 150 students in our FQ building with 2 microscope. Was an onion leaf, onion peel. That's what we saw in the microscope. A whole biology period. A whole semester of biology. Onion peel. That's what we saw. So 100% of all we learn in Liberia is theory. So it will be good to train the people on the theory. And when the machine comes, then you start to put it on hands-on. Then at least they got some idea. Or the ones that you have, they're putting on there. Because you should have some other machine in the country. You've been building roads for the last 20 years, we've been building roads. 15 to 20 years, we've been building roads. So start training people on those so that when the yellow machine comes, you can get the ball rolling. But when it's based on politics, it's difficult to have those plans in place. And let me give a pointer to the government now, because it's a work in progress. Today, I hear you are building diagnosis center. Great ideas. Beautiful idea. And I hope some of your constituents can listen to this and start working with your diaspora offices in healthcare. Most of your Liberians here, they are in the healthcare field. From my own estimate, I will just looking at my community where I live in Houston, I will tell you about 40% of the Liberians in Houston are in healthcare. Nurse, laboratory scientist, medical assistant, doctor, or something in that line. So your diaspora office is supposed to start working with these people. As you build those diagnosis centers, which is a good idea, what you should start doing is thinking about, one, it's a laboratory, right? If it is laboratory, you got to start thinking about your policies. You got to look about what machines you're going to bring. What's the contract going to look like? Are you buying machines from companies that are going to supply your laboratory, and then they're going to have an agreement? What kind of agreement you're going through? Are you buying or leasing? Those are all things you should start studying now. And if you're buying a lease or leasing, how long is that vendor going to be giving you reagents to continue your operation? How much is it going to cost? What discount can you get? And when you get those machines, who's going to train your people? Have you thought about the staffing? Because that's the most important part. To build the infrastructure is easy. But the most important thing, if you want to really have a national agenda, which is sustainable, is to have the manpower to occupy that building. Because I can tell you, I sitting here, one of my brothers from my hometown, we renovated a clinic since 2001, I think. We turned it over. Since that building was constructed, or renovated and put up in my hometown, nobody to man it because the government have not put anybody in there. Can I call it a clinic? No, it's not a clinic because no one is getting there for treatment. So it's just a building sitting there with a name called clinic, but it's not a clinic. So if you build, and my point is, if you build a diagnosis center, and if it is not functioning as that center, you don't have the manpower to occupy it, to run it, to continue operation. It is not a diagnosis center. It is not. So the government should now start working with its Liberian citizens outside of the country. Work with your diaspora office to start thinking about ways that they can encourage their citizens to bring the expertise that they have back home. Most of us who are career-minded and working in our own field, we don't want to come to Liberia to work. Most of us, I can speak for myself, because I don't want to come to Liberia to work. But I do go to Liberia and I always volunteer to help. So the 1 or 2 weeks I'm there, if I'm spending 1 week with your team and training them on things that they can learn, it helps. That's my contribution to my country. And many Liberians, career Liberians, will want to do that. They're not coming to get a job. They just want to take their time to help so that tomorrow when they go there, when they need that service, it can be provided to them. And even if I'm not there, my relatives can get that service. That's the reason we do that. So I hope we can start thinking in that vein where we're working with our diaspora Liberians, wherever they are, in their field, so that they can be because every year, every month, almost Liberians are in Liberia. And you can use them. We volunteer here in America. We don't get paid. I go out volunteer my time to places. I don't get paid. The same thing we will do in Liberia. But we need to start working together. That's the only way our country can develop. Let us stop this politics in everything. Because everything is now politically motivated. Everything we do. Somebody is dying, we play politics. The country is dying, we play politics. Somebody cursing somebody, we play politics. Somebody degrading another person, we play. Somebody is killing somebody, we play politics. That is just wrong. When do we become nationalistic? At least for once. Let us put Liberia first. These political parties will go. Case in point, two-way party, we no longer hear about them. NDPL used to be in the 80s. NPP, the 90s and early 2000s. Where are they? We can barely hear about them. Unity Party, CDC, who knows, 10, 20 years from now, we may not even hear about them again. You know? We used to hear about LAB, UP, UPP, and all those things in the 80s. We barely hear about them. We still hear about UP now because they're in power. But what I'm saying is Liberia will still remain in the absence of these political parties. So instead of focusing on politics as a developmental tool, let us focus on national agenda as a developmental tool. By building system, I think if we have national agendas and policies, we will build a system out of that. But politics, it's temporary because it's just why I'm there. When I'm gone, we forget about it. But we have national agenda and everybody is focusing on that. Now, this is what politics does. If we all Liberians focus first on the national agenda, we have the political will to implement the national agenda. That's the importance of politics. But politics should not take the place of the national agenda. That's my point I'm making, Liberians. Let us have a national agenda. We know it already. You don't have to go and develop it. We know we need good education system, good healthcare system. Road network have been paramount in the last 15 years at least, and we're working on that. Understandable? Okay, so healthcare or education, agriculture. That's one of the most important things that we keep missing. Agriculture is one of the most. A country that feeds itself will develop faster than any other country, than anything. If you can feed yourself, you will develop faster. But we allow politics to take over everything we do. So at the end of the day, the politicians benefit while the people suffer. The national port of entry have been politicized. So every government that comes in play to put something in there that will get them money. The next government comes, they put something in there that will get them money. So today, I know Ellen Johnson get her royalty there. George Weah will get his own. Maybe Boca putting his own there. By the time he leaves too, he get a royalty. So when they all leave, they get royalty coming. But the country is still tightening for the common man. That's politics. That's the national agenda. Doesn't benefit anybody besides those at the top. So, Liberia, look, I want to say thank you for your time. But look, before I leave, I want to say our country needs every one of us. I'm asking Liberians, wherever you find yourself, let us try to work together to contribute to the national development of our country. The only people that can develop Liberia are Liberians. That's the only people. History have shown us no amount of aids can develop your country. Most countries that have left, that have departed from receiving aids are developing. Loans, IMF loan. We see Botswana is doing well. Namibia is doing well. Tanzania started years ago. They're doing well. Ghana is starting to do the same thing. They're doing extremely well. Burkina Faso, that everybody said was a desert land, would amount to nothing. They're doing well. I don't care what you can say. You can say he's a dictator, whatever you want to define a dictatorship as. So we need to stop focusing on politics and focus on our country development. That's what we need to do. Get away. In my opinion, in my strong recommendation, run away from the IMF. Run. We need to run away from the IMF and the World Bank completely, or else we'll continue to be enslaved. We'll continue to be controlled. We'll continue to be lied to with these scorecards that they give us. These scorecards are lies. Don't believe all those stuff. These guys come and sit in a car, they get their millions of dollars, they sit in an air conditioned car and patrol and go and come back and go and write their notes. Do they interview the boy in Baila? Do they interview the boy in Satan? In Sastan? In the Vera village? No, they don't. They sit in the car and they drive around and look for some pointers. And when they finish, they put checking the back, and they present it to the IMF. And then when they send out money, they come back and take some and carry with them. Let us stop enslaving ourselves for the benefit of the few people that are sitting on the top. 50 years from now, Liberia will remain. I may not be around, but I can tell you most of the people that are in government will not be around. But the citizens, the children of Liberia will be suffering because of the decision that they are making today. That is why we need a national agenda with a political will to back that national agenda up. Again, this is Liberia shall rise. And if Liberia shall rise, it requires and we must put all Liberians on board, regardless of religion, ethnicity, political affiliation, creeds, or whatever. The first thing that should come is Liberia. Liberia, Liberia, Liberia. That's it. Every other thing should be in the back. And with that, I want to take this time to recognize the people that join me. Mr. Nathan Smith, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Liberia Shall Rise. Please share the show. Mr. Emmanuel A. Ping, hey, my brother from back in the days, SDA Connect. I want to say thank you guys for joining me. And look, I'm passionate about developing Liberia, and I know you are. As long as you join us, we're going to continue pushing this message. We don't know who's going to hear one day and take our message to somebody. It may make sense to them, and they will do the right thing. And I want to also, Gilboy, DJ Czar, I want to say thank you for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And as we leave, we want to say again, God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend and have a wonderful new week. Be blessed. And next Sunday is Mother's Day. And I hope to have, if not full house, but I have another brother with me that will, instead of I'm doing the monologue, we'll have a conversation and we'll have various views on things that we'll discuss. And hopefully he can give us some updates from where he's coming from. Again, I want to say thank you. Have a wonderful and a blessed day.